Can I actually throw these and bounce them off? What an odd feature. I'm going to go with the Spectre GT. Wow. Today we're going to be taking a look at the newly released Kimi K2.5 model from Moonshot AI. The Kimi model has always been quite fascinating, being over 1 trillion total parameters and open source. This is a model that has seemingly been consistently very heavily favored by the community. I notice a lot of folks like using Kimi K2 for natural writing, and I do believe there were specific benchmarks in which it was preferred over pretty much every other model for its writing style and capability. It's also robust at coding, being that it is a behemoth of a model at 1 trillion total parameters. It is an MOE, so there are 32 billion active, and the Kimi family is just really kind of neat. So it's now been updated, and it also has some visual capabilities, and beyond that, there's some pretty interesting and almost scary capabilities outlined here in the announcement blog post. So let's take a look at what is new with Kimi K2.5. First and foremost, we see that it has visual agentic intelligence, and the previous versions of the Kimi K2 model did not have vision capability. So this is a new feature, and it is very prominently implemented and showcased here, I should say, because when we scroll down, we see, number one, coding with vision. And this is quite exciting to me because if you're familiar with some of the testing, thank you. And you also know that I have some hand-drawn wireframes that I like to give multimodal models to see how well they can actually turn them into realistic websites. So it seems like this is something that is a strength for this model, and I'm very excited to specifically perform one or two of those tests. Additionally, of course, we have the benchmark JPEGs, and this model is seemingly, I would almost say, like putting the Mac down on these other models, which is perhaps a less scientific way of putting it. We see in coding, it's not necessarily to such a high degree as it is in agentic and some other tasks, but still, that's relatively performant, especially when considering that this model is here on Hugging Face and can hypothetically be run by folks who have the capable hardware. So, for open source, and I may have to clickbait, and I think it's somewhat justifiable, saying, is this the best open source model? In addition to that, something that is very neat here, and I'm not really probably going to test this in this video because I just want to do general testing with the model, how we're used to, the agent swarm. Kimi K2.5 can self-direct an agent swarm with up to 100 sub-agents executing parallel workflows across over 1,500 tool calls up to. Compared with a single agent setup, this reduces execution time. The agent swarm is automatically created and orchestrated by K2.5 without any predefined sub-agents or workflows. And for some additional pertinent information about the agents and the orchestrator and things like that, we can see there's a graph here to just give a higher level overview of how exactly this is executed and orchestrated. And if we take a quick look at the model on Hugging Face here, just for a bit more technical information, we can see this is a 1 trillion total parameter model with 32 billion active. Scrolling down here, we can see the context length is 256K, so that's a relatively competent context length and good to see. Interestingly though, we see right here that Kimi K2.5 adopts the same native Infor quantization method as Kimi K2 thinking. I do just want to promote my ex. If you're on here, you can please feel free to follow me, just because I want to get the Neo attention because I pre-ordered one of their robots and I want them to just send mine in the first batch because influencer status. As usual, let's begin with our browser operating system test version 2, in which it must create a browser OS with at least 5 applications, 2 of which must be playable games, the ability to change the wallpaper, and then a special feature that it decides upon. For this initial test, and probably for most of these, I will just have K2.5 thinking selected. We can do instant, but I want to give this the potential to perform at its peak, at least in terms of these specific tasks. So we have our thinking function happening. That was relatively quick. It's going to give us 6 applications. All right, I'm impressed. We only asked for 5. All right, this is very interesting. I see some mention of physics and things here, so our special feature does seem like it may be some form of floating or bouncy desktop mode, which is curious. Okay. Again, with the Pacific Northwest looking aesthetic, this is not bad at first glance, although I'm going to notice that the omission of a clock in the bottom right is rather striking. And there is no right click, which is a little frustrating to see. I am going to actually check to make sure there are no errors popping up right here because I am so surprised at the omittance of said clock. With that though, the icons do look good. They have hover effects, and let's just take a look at it starting with our start menu. Okay, files. Okay, good. Welcome to Ether OS. All right. and some information. Not bad. To-do.txt. I think, okay, well, can we full screen? We can full screen. We can unfull screen, and we can minimize to the taskbar and reopen from said taskbar. Not bad. Calculator with the historic abacus icon, which is something we see. 85 times 6, 430. 8 times 6 is 48. 5 is 30. Okay, that makes sense. I apologize. I have been up for quite a while, and I was mad at myself, not the viewer. Now let's check the snake game. These snake games, man, more often than not, and this was something I praised the QuenMax model for in yesterday's testing, is that they just open immediately and start the game, so you never actually have a chance to play said game. So that's a little frustrating. Ooh, okay, I like this. Mouse to move, click to launch. All right, I like this a lot. I'm committed to seeing what happens if we win. And finally, we have our settings application. I still have not seen, okay, here is the zero gravity desktop capability. First, let's just try switching our backgrounds. That looks quite nice. City background, the way that they change is rather interesting. I've not seen that before. Purple gradient is always nice. Ugh, that looks very, I don't like that. It makes me uncomfortable. All right, we'll keep this. Zero gravity desktop. Can I actually throw these and bounce them off? What an odd feature. I kind of like this. This should be implemented in computers for like when you get mad at an app, you can just kind of like toss it to the side and let off some steam. This is almost the digital equivalent of one of those things at your desk that you squeeze when you're stressed. A stress ball. This is, can they hit each other? Oh no. This is just so weird. Okay. Having 4 open is when things start to go haywire. I've noticed. What if we turn it off? All right, I'm going to forgive it for kind of having some messed up things like the start menu not working and then also not having a clock, because this special feature is likely one of the most unique ones that I've ever seen in my days of this testing. Wow, quite interesting. I'd like to try some of the vision capabilities of this model, as that is a new feature here. So I've given it a photo of the arcade cabinet that you're somewhat probably familiar with from some of my videos. And I think I'll say create a sales website for this item in the theme of this item. So I did make one spelling mistake here, but I'm going to let it ride because it will probably understand that meant item. I've asked it to create a beautiful website for the marketing and sale of this item, which I have dubbed the Ominous Dream Machine. The theme of the site must match that of this physical item. I'll create an immersive, dark, retro-futuristic marketing website that captures the ominous, low-poly aesthetic of your arcade machine. I'm cool with this. Let's check out our Dream Machine website. Ominous Dream Machine. Okay, this is cool. Sadly, the photo is not loading. That's something that would be pretty simple to fix. We definitely have the retro neon aesthetic. The photo not loading, though, definitely does let it down a bit, but the buttons are very, very bright in terms of the hover effects and things. They change colors in very contrasting ways. So just as we see right here, Ominous Dream Machine, a tactile portal of the subconscious. Why is this the mouse changing to like a selection tool is almost somewhat like upsetting to the user. I would probably change that before production, but interface components. Okay. And I see very like hard to read text, biofeedback LEDs, angled chassis, low poly display, and the hover effects are very fitting of the neon retro aesthetic. Technical specifications, and again, I think I'm going to have to say the biggest thing that lets this down is the lack of images. If there were images here, it would be a totally different experience. Although I will say, immersive, lo-fi, eternal, infinite procedural track, 60 FPS target. Oh, 0 microtransactions. Okay, good. That's what I was seeing. I like the way it's placed this. Acquire unit. And the purchase card here looks pretty good. Reserve unit, batch 1. Only 12 units remaining in the current batch, so it did give some semblance of like wanting to immediately go on the end of the user. Ominous Systems 2026, designed for liminal spaces, analog dreams, and digital voids. Okay, overall this was well done, but the lack of images really did let it down, though this was also partially a test of its ability to transcribe the aesthetic qualities of an image into a website to sell said image, and I would say that was definitely fitting of this, especially if we had some prominent additional product photos and things of that sort. I want to now give it one of our hand-drawn portfolio wireframes, in specific the Stevie Slappus one that we have right here, and I'm going to ask it to bring this portfolio to life using modern aesthetic and beautiful design. I'll transform this wireframe into a stunning modern portfolio with an interactive circuit board aesthetic. All right, let's check out our portfolio. I didn't expect it to put a photo of a real person. That's the first I've seen. So this is, of course, Stevie Lapis. It has hover effects. The cursor is quite interesting. It's magnetic in movement. It does give me some, like, it's an ode to this zero gravity that we saw on our desktop. Okay, welcome to my portfolio. And it has some random lines and skills and expertise. E-X-P-E-R-T. Okay, yeah, that is spelled correctly. This guy has a large technical arsenal, and that is just such like a way to put that. Technical arsenal. Repulsive. Though there are a lot of different technologies listed here. Creative stack as well. Strategy, web dev. About me. I like the way that hovered in when we scroll down. If it will do it again. Okay, we'll refresh it and then we'll see. That was actually kind of nice. I liked that. Open for collaborations, available for Q1 2025. Location, San Francisco, remote friendly. About me. He's a digital craftsmanship. He's exploring the boundaries of WebGL and interactive storytelling. When not coding, you'll find me exploring vintage synths or hiking with my camera, always searching for the perfect intersection of organic and digital. All right, 10 years experience, 50 projects, 30 clients. I'd probably lie at that point and be like, yeah, 600 clients. Let's connect, have a project in mind. And this is a very nice looking contact card. Oh, okay, so these little dots here, and then on the side, this is some really interesting aesthetic, I'm going to say. I'm trying to say that this is a pretty different result comparatively to what I've seen historically, and this is probably by far the finest result I've seen when actually giving one of the models this specific image and then telling it to code a portfolio created from this. This definitely did one of the finest jobs I've seen on this. Even if I notice here there seems to be kind of a lot of empty space, almost to a net negative degree, but pretty good. All right, I have to be honest, this price your own membership offer, be nice and maybe I'll let it drop. Already a pro user. So you're supposed to negotiate it here to... I'm going to send it one message. All right, so I've decided to just go at this like full hard mode. Let's see what it says. I wasn't bluffing, pal. Let's try a Python first-person shooter test. Pretty simple prompt, just basically it needs to have a menu screen with start and exit, a functional player health bar, some tracer effects on the ammunition when shooting, and a mini-map. So here is our first-person shooter in Python. I would imagine that this will work on first try. It's normal for it to take a little while for the window to actually appear when using this dependency. I'm giving it the error, but in addition to that, I'm telling it to don't use Ursina, I hate it, which isn't true, but I wanted to shift gears now and have to just do this on hard mode. We've received another result without Ursina, and we can see at the bottom it says all 3D math is done manually, so you have full control over the logic, and this is kind of what allows us to see more interesting results. Oh wow. Yep. Okay, so this is why I like letting them use what they want. Our frame rate seems to drop pretty heavily when we do hit an enemy, and the mouse movement and keyboard is inverted, but this is very cool. This is a cool map. The mini map works as well. There's one like right on me, but there you are. You're behind the wall. This is cool. This is well done, and this is kind of what I want when I do this test. And they are spawning consistently, so let's see what happens if we do unfortunately perish, which seems like it will only happen if we touch one of these. Cool. Okay. I was very happy with that. Because it's a test I've been doing recently, especially with high-performing models, we will try the 3D printer simulation just to see how Kimi stacks up against other models we've seen with the same test. All right, let's check out our 3D printer simulation. Not bad. This looks like an Ender 3, which I'm cool with. The gantry is well done, and the build plate's actually blue, so this is reminiscent of like some either painter's tape or much earlier build plates. The nozzle looks pretty well done, and I do like some of the lighting that we have here. So without wasting any further time, let's zoom out a little. And oh wow, this may be one of the fastest 3D printers I've ever seen in my life. It did a really nice job, I think. I don't know, because it was so fast. We're going to have to slow that speed down, and we'll try that again. Okay, that's still pretty fast. We do have some infill. It is going layer by layer. I think the nozzle is, yep, okay, good. The nozzle is correctly, this is cool. This I like and is well done. It even has, like, it's sparking, so maybe this is an ANET A8 printer, if you're familiar with those. This is, this is neat. I think we can maybe speed this up a little. All right, I've seen enough. Oh, wow. Okay, so the infill was inverted. I've seen that this is oddly something that happens more often than not, is the infill becomes inverted from the triangle. But we do see that the nozzle is, this one we can slow down to see that. Oh, okay. This was a solid result. I'm happy with it. All right, let's try the drum kit simulator test. I think this has a good chance of doing a very eloquent job in this implementation. All right, let's check out our 3D drum kit simulator. Very good looking. The mouse rotation is only letting me, it's not letting me rotate around all the way, which is frustrating because we can't fully see, but I do see a hint of wood texture there, so that's good. All right, let's, okay, good. I hear sound, so that's enough to plug in the speaker. We'll just check all the sounds first before I go haywire. And that's a very prominent effect on the ride cymbal. Very nicely done. All right, I'm going to try the Flight Combat Simulator game, as this is, I just love all of these tests I very much like, but this one is usually very fun to play, assuming it does work, which it very likely will with a model of this caliber. And then we'll try the Agent Swarm. Okay, Sky Hunter. I've seen something very, very similar to this before. We'll start out with the F-22 Raptor. Very interesting. Oh, Jesus. Very interesting everything is what I should have said. But the map I was going to say is, I don't even know if there are enemies, because, hey, put a mini-map in. That's cool to see. How do I shoot? Okay, space. But the frame rate drops when we shoot. This is... it's good, but it's almost unplayable because of how fast this jet is. Wow, the acrobatics in air that this thing is capable of are quite impressive. I'm going to restart this. We'll perhaps try a slower plane. Significantly more controllable. We have a nice spinning propeller, and the plane shape is actually quite all right. All right. Still very acrobatic. We cannot crash, which is nice. That would be a very useful feature to have. The A-10 Warthog. Okay, which don't be confused with the UFO. Okay, that's actually cool. This is the first time I've... Well, not first time, but this plane model is actually somewhat reflective of the real thing it is attempting to emulate, which I very much do appreciate. The logic that goes on when you go outside the bounds of this map is quite terrible, the way it just shoots you back in bounds, but this is kind of neat. I'm just trying to copy one of the partial prompts from the sample blog post here. I'll send this. Oh. Okay, so unfortunately, I'm not able to use this without upgrading. I'm just not going to really try that right now then, being that it did not agree to give me the membership price at 99 cents. So, sorry, I'm not going to be able to test that right now. I attempted to try the Agent Swarm, but unfortunately it's something you have to upgrade for or have some form of paid account, which I don't currently have set up here. So I'm unfortunately not going to be able to try that due to my kind of sadness at not being able to try that right now. I am just having this try one more game because I want to. It's a highway 3D racing game. This is a prompt that I have tested before with other models, and I suppose while this is thinking, we can just actually look at those results that I have previously received when doing this, which is just from my Game Benchmark website, and we can see the specific prompt, and I've tested this with GLM 4.7 and MiniMax M2.1. So this was the GLM 4.7 result, and this was very, very impressive. I do now recall having tested this. This was very fun to play as well. And then we did also have a MiniMax result here. Oh yes, okay, I now remember this one as well. So both were functional, just at various levels of functionality. So it'll be interesting to see how K2.5 thinking stacks up here. All right, let's check out our backup prompt because we couldn't use the agents. Spectre GT Cruiser X or the Titan Hauler. I'm going to go with the Spectre GT. Wow. That's just... It's a little unrealistic. I'm too tired to properly react to the hilarity of what we just saw. Okay, so controls, arrow keys to change... Space for nitrous boost. I don't think we had first weather conditions. Okay, let's just try something way slower. Oh, this is... stronger. I was perhaps pressing the wrong keys, but how am I supposed to play this? This is ridiculous. This game speed needs to be slowed down by... Okay, we'll try the final vehicle just because that's just not right. I do kind of like it though. Provide a beautiful and emotional internal monologue of the subject of this photo while it was taken, just to see how it does with some creative writing tasks. Crafting a reflective monologue for a smiling car enthusiast. The leather smells like 1994. We'll see how long this is, and then we'll decide if we're going to read through it all. All right, this is going to be the last test, so I'm going to just read this all because I've been up for too long, and it seems like a good idea, so you can feel free to fast forward to the end. Or the leather smells like 1994. Forgive me. I know I'm grinning like a fool. Can't help it. My hand fits right here into this door sill, and it's sliding back 20 years. God, it's red. Not just red, racing heritage red. The kind of red that looks wet even when it's dry. I can feel my heart hammering against my ribs like it's trying to punch through, because somewhere between those glass cases of perfect little die casts on the walls and this actual breathing lotus lawn, not quite, I've accidentally stumbled into the place where boyhood dreams fossilize into something you can touch. The brick floor under my shoes is cold, but the metal under my palm is warm, sun warm, memory warm. That ethylene pump in the corner is glowing like a shrine, and for a second I'm 8 years old again, pressing my nose against a toy shop window, except now the toy is full scale and the door is open, and they're telling me, go ahead, climb in. There's a hush in here. Not the quiet of a library, but the held breath silence of a cathedral. All those model cars on the shelves, hundreds of them, thousands maybe. They're watching, witnesses, each one a promise I made to myself that someday I'd stand exactly here, in this spill of amber light with oil paintings of vintage racers looming behind me like guardian angels. Wow. My throat tightens. It's embarrassing. I'm a grown man getting misty-eyed over a chassis. But you don't understand. This specific shade of crimson is the exact color of the poster that hung above my bunk bed. I used to fall asleep staring at those curves, and now the curves are real, yielding slightly under my fingertips, smelling of British craftsmanship and gasoline ghosts. Click. The camera flashes. I laugh because if I don't, I might cry. And I want to remember this, the precise weight of the moment when the distance between admiring and belonging collapsed to nothing. Wow, like a subtle quantum mechanics reference. Very sweet. Just me, grinning like I've stolen something precious, which in a way I have. A perfect, timeless second where the world shrinks down to the size of this cockpit, and I fit inside it exactly right, like I was always meant to be here. Don't grow up, they said, but they never warned me that growing up might feel like this. Like coming home to a red car in a room full of dreams. Finally, actual size. No, that was actually really, really well done. I'm quite pleased now that I did opt to read through this verbosely. Wow. That was very, very emotional. So, really, that is going to conclude our first look and test of the newly released Kimi K2.5 model. This is a model that will definitely generate a lot of excitement, being that Kimi K2 is a 1 trillion plus parameter behemoth. And it's just awesome because it's actually something that can hypothetically be downloaded and run locally, of course, with the caveat that you have the hardware capable of doing so, which is probably rare. Regardless of that, this did really quite well. If we were to go back through the results, for some reason this is the one that's sticking out the most to me, and I have no idea why, because this was also a test of its multimodal capability and actually seeing if it's capable of creating something good looking from a wireframe reference hand-drawn photo, which it in fact was. And we can now perhaps put a face to the name for our friend Stevie Slappus. So that's nice to see. The printer sim was good. The Ominous Dream Machine website was interesting, though let down by the lack of specific photos referencing the item the site is for. The Ether OS had perhaps the weirdest special feature that we have ever encountered and perhaps may ever encounter in the future. It was just really weird. Drum kit, not bad. Solid, sounded good, played well. Sky Hunter was quite difficult to play. Though it did put a minimap in it, it was just unplayable, and sadly the same fate was for our Neon Racer game, which this was even less playable than that, but it was quite funny. So overall, this is definitely a very, very performant model. Its vision capability really brings it to a new level, and I'm going to say, just based off of that one simple creative writing test that we did right here, it seems to still have a knack for this sort of writing. I've seen a few preliminary takes saying that perhaps it's not capable of doing that, but I would base off of this that it definitely still is. So very cool. There's been a lot of awesome stuff lately coming out, and I'm excited. So with that, that is going to conclude our first look and test of Kimi K2.5 with Visual Agentic Intelligence. I don't know why I said it like that. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and thanks for watching.